Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to This One's Dedicated To. I'm Jennifer Ziegler.
And I'm Chris Barton, and we are joined today by Nadia Salomon, the author of the nonfiction picture book, A Voice of Hope, the MYRLIE Evers-Williams Story, illustrated by London Lad. Welcome, Nadia.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me on the show. This book actually has three dedications,
Mhm.
and the first one I included it because it is a book about Miss MYRLIE Evers-Williams, and so I thought it would be most appropriate to have a dedication by her, and then mine, and then of course London's.
Okay.
So MYRLIE Evers-Williams' dedication is, I believe we have a reason for being. And then my dedication is, use your voice to change the world. And London's dedication is for Lavanda.
Aw.
All right.
Well, can you talk a little bit about how you decided on your dedication? Or is it a message, or is it both?
I would say it's both. I found her story very fascinating, and I thought it would make the most sense to say, use your voice to change the world, because that's what she did.
And it's almost like you're dedicating the book to the reader. I mean, you're
Yeah.
anybody who reads this book can see this message is going to them.
Yes. And that was the whole point of this book in a way, because I originally wrote this book because the backstory for this book, it's going to be 19 plus years by the time this book comes out. And so when I first met MYRLIE, I met her at a press conference when they were going to change the name of the airport in Mississippi to include that of her late husband's, Medgar Evers. So when I met her, it was all because of a poster board with a bunch of personal family photos that were on the poster board. There were
Mhm.
like 8 photos, and the entire time during the conference, she never talked about it. And being the very um, I really like knowing things, so I'm very curious. And so I just said to her after everyone left, "Excuse me, Miss Evers Williams." I'm like, "You brought this poster board the entire time you talked about everything else but the poster board and all the pictures on it. Why?" And she just looked at me and she's like, "Because you asked." She said she had time to sit with me and talk to me about the photos. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And so I sat with her for my lunch hour with the cameraman, and we did this interview. And she told us about all these pictures. They were private, personal pictures, like her wedding, some of Medgar, like when he was a young soldier. We've seen some of these floating around online, but at the time, that was my first experience being in Mississippi and learning about Mississippi history. So I had no idea who Medgar Evers was, who she was, but I just knew that, she was a cool person to be around. She had great aura, and she just had so much conviction in what she was trying to do to make changes in the state of Mississippi, because as we know, Mississippi has a very racist history, and this was huge.
Yeah.
And so when I took the interview back to the station, the news director was like, "Oh no, we'll just go with something else." And so that night I was going to meet with her because I had purchased a copy of her book because she was signing it at Lemuria.
Mhm.
And when I got there and I said to her, "Look, I'm really sorry we didn't air that part of the interview, but we aired this part of the interview instead." And I'm like, "I feel really bad about it." And she was like, "Well, don't. These things happen." And I was like, "Well, I want to do something with it." And she was like, "You're a smart young woman. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you'll figure something out." And sure enough, I
Huh?
sat with that and I thought to myself, how can I make her proud and not waste like such an intimate moment, such personal thoughts that she was sharing with me and the photographer at the time. And so since 2005, it took a lot of tries, a lot of drafts to turn the book from, that idea of having, the concept, her thoughts through the pictures into her life story, her passion, because I feel that she's been left behind in a way, because even though she's had a hand in a lot of the civil rights movement in the early years before Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King, Malcolm X, and all these other people, she's never had her due. And I thought, this book, the reason I've been fighting for it for so long, trying to get interviews, trying to talk to the family, trying to put this book out, is because I want the younger generation of kids, for them to see the perseverance and where legacy takes you when you're impassioned about it. So that's the story of the whole concept to now that it's a narrative picture book. I'm nervous on the inside because I'm like, I don't know how she's gonna take this book. But, I just hope, I make her proud.